The following podcast contains strong language. Hello and welcome back to the Ciné Rambles Podcast, Season 2.
Hooray!
You're listening to Nick.
And Andrew.
And joining us as our special guest on this episode is Georgia.
Hello! I'm very excited. I've always wanted to be on Ciné Rambles.
And now you are. This is
Yay.
Journey to Stardom.
I'm famous now. Like 5 other people know who I am.
Whoa.
Basically our entire audience, so.
Yeah.
Who too will probably be on this podcast at some point.
Who too?
Who will also. Shut up.
So it begins.
So before we get on to our main content, just a little bit of housekeeping. So yes, we're on to Season 2 now, which will be running at least until Christmas, maybe into sort of spring next year, before we take our next break. We'll be running this podcast fortnightly while we deal with some other stuff in our life. Because weekly was kind of a bit draining at points. So, it should be on Fridays still. Fridays 12 PM, fortnightly. So, on to the news. Let's talk about Mulan first, which is basically SU'd its cinema release and is going straight to Disney Plus, as expected. Mm-hmm. But what we weren't necessarily expecting is there's now going to be a $30, or over here it's going to be a £19.99 surcharge to watch Mulan on Disney Plus, on top of the subscription of, what is it, $5.99 a month?
Yeah.
So, well, would you pay that for Mulan?
No fucking way.
To be honest, I'm not too sure.
But surely they can only put that surcharge on it for a limited time.
Well, so it's called a premiere charge, like, you know, for the privilege of watching it as if it were a new release.
Yeah.
Right.
In theory, it should wear off.
I mean,
but like,
it should do.
It's weird. So like, so the idea is, you know, oh well, if you're not going to see it in the cinema, this will it's the cost of seeing it that early. But that's Netflix doesn't do that on its new releases. The point is you're paying for the service already.
Trolls World Tour did, and I'm guessing they're just being
that's the thing. So
let's do that.
So they do say with this £20, you get to watch it as many times as you want and keep it forever.
Yeah.
And I don't think Trolls World Tour did that, to be fair.
No, they didn't. It was like one day rental.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Weird.
I didn't know that you got to keep it, so that's actually a lot better than I thought.
But even then, consider a Blu-ray is £15 nowadays new.
Yeah.
And even then,
But also, they were expecting Mulan to absolutely rake it in, weren't they? Expecting it to crack $1 billion easy. So, I think
they're going to lose money anyway by putting it on streaming. So, having it about £20 for a household is pretty good.
Well, yeah, that's the assumption, isn't it? Like with Trolls World Tour, it's like, oh, this is like a family's worth of tickets. But then if you're a singleton, you're screwed.
Yeah, which is just sort of unfortunate, really, isn't it?
But then if you get to keep it, then I don't know. I don't really see the problem. I see everyone kicking off about it and being like, oh, why should we have to pay more money when we already pay for Disney Plus? But it's like,
my
they
question
should have gone
is,
into the cinema.
Why pay $30 for Mulan the remake when you can watch the animated one for free?
Which is better.
Yeah.
And probably identical shot for shot.
And has Eddie Murphy in it.
I don't know. I feel like they've changed the live action one quite a bit.
It's gritty now, but it's Disney gritty TM, so...
So a single speck of grit.
Yeah.
Which is carefully brushed aside as not to offend any grit haters.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's not a musical, is it?
No, it's
they
not.
don't sing.
Yeah, so it's inferior to the old Mulan.
Dragon.
But what was weird about it is they cut out Mushu, right? Because it's like, oh, it's too mystical. We can't have a fucking talking dragon in it. But I tell you what we can have is a fucking crow woman.
A what?
What?
There's a woman who turns into a crow, doesn't she?
Does she? I don't know.
She's got talons and magic bullshit, definitely.
Oh. I don't know.
This is new to me.
I can't
Is that-
say I've seen that.
Is that so you know how the the main evil guy, who I can't remember his name, who's got yellow eyes.
Yeah.
And he had his hawk. Is she instead of the hawk?
Yes, I think so. I think she is the hawk, maybe. I can't remember.
Then why not have the dragon?
Well, exactly. Mushu's like the best part of that film.
Yeah.
This whole film sounds like a train wreck.
Yep.
Speaking of train wrecks, let's talk about the New Mutants, which has sort of come out.
In the bin.
Yes.
It's Long Road to Ruin.
Yeah. So this is a film plagued by problems at basically every stage of its production.
Yeah.
But even on release, it's still attracting controversy because basically, so when it comes to criticizing films as a profession, there's generally like either like press screenings or they send out screener DVDs for critics to watch at home. Disney's refused to do this for the New Mutants, despite the pandemic. And so a lot of big newspapers, including IndieWire, are refusing to review the New Mutants because Disney won't offer a safe watching environment for it. And people don't feel safe going to the public screenings at the moment. So even on release, New Mutants are just being shat in the bin by Disney. No one cares about this poor film.
Why?
To be fair, it not getting reviewed is probably a better outcome than it being reviewed.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
so you think more people will see it if that's the case?
No, well, we reckon...
I think that's probably the strategy.
Yeah, like, we reckon it's... Disney knows it's terrible.
Yeah.
And if people don't get it reviewed, it will just slip on... Because they clearly want to get this film just out and done and never talk about it again.
They just want to squeeze it, shake the turd loose and then brush it under the carpet and ignore it forever.
You don't want people noticing and shouting to the world about the turd you just shout onto the carpet. You don't want it to just get out the way quickly. And I think that's what's happened here.
The turd you've been curling out since 2017.
Just quietly in the corner, pretending you're doing something else. This whole time you're constipated.
Because I've always wanted to see the New Mutants, and I still want to see it. I just want to know why it's taken so long and what effect that has had on it. I reckon it's just going to be meh. I don't think it's going to be great. I don't think it's going to be bad either. I just think it's going to be just meh. You know?
Yeah.
See, it doesn't look like god awful, but from what I've seen of the trailers and stuff, I think this might be something to do with the cinematography or the colour palette, but it just looks so dull and grey and very kind of muted. It just doesn't seem to have any life or energy to it.
The thing is, I think had it come out in 2017, which was, the height of Marvel stuff coming out, and it was this alternative horror-based superhero film, if it'd come out then, it probably would have been oh, wow, this is fresh and different. But because it's come out 3 years later when we're sort of done with that side.
Yeah, we're in post-Endgame now, which is, far too late.
It's just oh, this is another shitty superhero film, whatever.
So do you know what happened earlier on that meant it couldn't come out this early?
I think there was
it screenwriting? Was there screenwriting problems?
I know it definitely got a rewrite at least 3 or 4 times, and then they had to reshoot some stuff. I think it had 2 or 3 directors.
Really?
Yeah. Basically, and then I can't remember. Basically, Disney just because they got it in the merger.
Oh yeah, because originally it was a Fox thing,
Fox,
wasn't it? Yeah.
And then I think they were well, this is a piece of shit, but we've got to do something with it.
Yeah, it's too much sunk costs to just scrap it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, also, because I'm not up to date with my comic book knowledge, in case anyone hadn't noticed, is this in Logan, how there's all the kids at the end and they get led off? Are those the New Mutants? Is this what this is continuing from, or is this something else?
No, it's completely different. It's completely, I'm guessing, set aside.
They are still X-Men.
Yeah. It's set in the X-Men universe, but I don't believe it is linked to any of the X-Men we have seen on screen.
Right.
So it's basically, it's kind of set up to be an almost horror film with, what's her name from Game of Thrones?
Oh, Maisie Williams.
Yeah, so she's the main protagonist, and basically, she's getting powers or something like that, but they're quite scary. Or something like that. I don't know.
Spooky powers.
They're going to this almost mental hospital with other mutants, and then like the doctors are trying to like, I don't know, maybe get rid of their powers, or
That would be the X-Men way.
something like that. I'm not too sure, but something like that.
Is that in an asylum, is it? Or a hospital or something like that?
Something like that, yeah. So they're basically trying to make them like sound like they're crazy when in fact they're just getting powers.
Yeah.
I think it's that sort of thing. I think, but like, don't hold me to it.
Well, maybe we'll watch it and review it on a later episode and see how terrible it is.
Yeah, because I do want to watch it.
Yeah, I want to watch it because it looks like a fucking train wreck. So.
See, the thing is, all the shit it's gone for, I kind of want to like it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
You know,
I want it to do well.
give it a little pat on the back as it dies wheezing of tuberculosis on the floor.
Yeah.
Right, shall we move on to some reviews then?
Yep.
Okay, so big new release is teneT, which has finally come out after a month and a half of delays.
Yeah.
Penny noted apparently that we talk about teneT like every episode.
Yes.
Well,
Yes, you do.
it was delayed like every week, wasn't it? So we
Yeah.
had to keep bringing it up. Not as much as we bring up Annihilation, though.
Or Avatar.
No.
Oh my god.
Speaking
Are we going to
of
be talking
Avatar.
about that? No. Every episode.
Is this a quick news section you squeeze in?
I don't remember if we mentioned the live action show.
We went into the first episode.
Yeah, but the original showrunners have jumped ship because it's going to be a piece of shit, as we predicted.
Yeah.
They are now also predicting it's going to be a piece of shit. So it's going to be a piece of shit. What a surprise.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It's-
moving on.
Yeah. I mean, I think our opinions on the Avatar live action remake have been
They're
have been well
well
documented. Anyway, right, so reviews. teneT. Now, does anyone want to try and give a synopsis of teneT?
So,
Oh my god.
literally today or yesterday maybe, I was asked what teneT was about. And I was just like, That's a good question. It's about time sort of goes backwards, but only for some things.
Yeah.
But that's like the gimmick, isn't it? That's not really what it's
Yeah.
about.
Well, yeah. Well,
It's about a dude.
I've-
And he's got to do some stuff.
so I've read the synopsis on IMDb in preparation for this.
Go
So
on.
I might be able to take a stab at it. Okay, so in teneT, we've got this guy whose name is the protagonist,
Yeah. Who is something Washington is his name. Isn't
John David Washington.
Yeah.
Which it's weird, this whole the protagonist thing, because the way they talk about that, it seems like it's like a position within the organization rather than a character name.
Yeah, I assumed that as well. Oh well.
But that doesn't really get expanded upon. Anyway,
Yeah.
so he's part of this mission, which is in like an opera house where they're raiding for something, and then, but he's captured, but he takes a suicide pill, which it turns out was a test and like a fake one.
Yeah.
And so he's like, you can be welcomed into this organization, which doesn't have a name, and go sort stuff out.
Yeah.
So he-
Basically, they're trying to stop World War III.
yeah, so he's
Yeah.
through this word teneT, which is like a sort of a password, he finds out about these inverted munitions, which have basically have their entropy inverted so they can run backwards through time. And there's evidence that there's going to be a big war about this. So he then tracks down these bullets and who made them and finds Kenneth Branagh's character.
Yeah, it was a
Sator.
real surprise. I didn't know that Kenneth Branagh was in it because I avoided all the adverts because I didn't want to go into this at all. After we watched it, actually, I then went and watched the advert to see if it would have ruined anything. And I mean, the advert was just explosions and shit. Like, doesn't actually sell the
Yeah.
film really at all,
Well, that's the thing, because no one's been trying to be quite secretive about it.
which is a good thing.
It is good. I'm not sure how necessary it was for this film.
Yeah,
Considering we've seen it, I'm still not entirely sure what happened.
yeah,
But
but
yeah. But so Kenneth Branagh's character is basically
evil.
he's going to destroy the world because he's going to die of cancer, and so he wants to bring the whole world down through with him.
Yeah,
So he's going to reverse all of entropy, and that will destroy everything. And so John D. Washington has to work together with Robert Pattinson and Sator's wife, who's played by Elizabeth Debicki, and stop him through inverting time and stuff. And that's basically the plot, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah,
say that that's a pretty good plot.
So if it wasn't obvious from that, I think the main problem for me with teneT is its plots and its story and characters are kind of a mess.
Yeah. It's very confusing, but unlike with Inception, where it's like, oh, this is slightly confusing, but you get the hang of it by the end of the film, this was so confusing throughout. It was just like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah, and the problem with this as well is like, there seems like a very deliberate attempt to make this like needlessly confusing.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of moments of characters almost turn to camera and go like, don't worry if you don't understand it, just go with it.
Yes, I picked up that.
I mean, they do say several times, don't they? They're
Yeah.
like, oh, don't try to understand it. It's like...
Which is really annoying.
Yeah, and I just feel like that was Nolan just being like, hey audience, you're dumb.
Yeah.
Like, you won't get it.
Which is annoying because the time inversion, like similar to Inception, like the mechanics of what's going on in terms of the gimmick aren't that difficult. Like, you do get your head around it through the sort of the situations that happen. But it's just the plot. It's who everyone is, what they're doing, this overarching organisation, who are they, what do they do, where do they come from, that doesn't get answered. The thing about Kenneth Branagh wanting to, like, commit suicide and then destroy the world, I only worked out from reading about it. It wasn't clear in the film.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, I picked up on that.
So I did pick it up in the film. His motivations aren't made clear until, like, the end of the film.
Yeah,
No.
like the last 20 minutes.
So he's doing all this evil stuff, but I was just like, okay, why?
Yeah, exactly.
And it just wasn't made clear enough why he was doing this stuff.
Yeah. And also, like, another problem I've had is, like, so the ending is it sort of devolves into this massive shootout in a sort of a war zone. And I feel like that's almost, I want to say, like, a lazy ending to it, in terms of, like, it seems like a very uncreative way to end a film. And Inception sort of had that, because it had the sort of the Arctic base shootout as well.
Yeah.
I don't know, I feel like with all the other sort of cool stuff that's happened, like, there's the sort of the airport stuff with the plane, and there's the all the inverted fighting and the inverted car chase and stuff. There's some really interesting set pieces there and creative ones. And in the end, it's like, right, people with military fatigues with assault rifles going around shooting things. Oh, okay. It just seems...
Yeah.
I don't know, I feel there's more interesting ways that ending could have happened. And especially it sort of ends up basically being like, oh, there's a doomsday weapon and we've got to go stop it. And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, again, that's something they introduced very late. It's like this weird doomsday thing that's like, oh, 9 pieces of this puzzle or something. I was like, what?
It's
Sorry,
like
what?
the algorithm. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, what does it... It's like, oh, it reverses entropy. I'm like, but how?
Yeah.
I feel like they did talk about that, like, quite early on. Like, but it just took forever, like, for me to grasp that, oh, this is actually important. I really should be paying attention to this.
Yeah, it's weird. It's strangely difficult to, like, get into the dialogue. Like, it's so sort of dense and sort of convolutedly delivered. Even when you're listening to it, it's like, I just take none of it in.
I struggled.
Especially when there's, like, the sound... some people have said the sound mixing is bad, and it is pretty problematic at points.
It's
like,
really
on
fucking loud.
Yeah. Well, on the catamarans, there's this essential dialogue going on between, Kenneth Branagh and John David Washington. And you can't hear it for shit, because there's the sound of the oceans roaring over it. Like, you know, mixing-wise, it's over it, so you can't hear what they're saying. It's like, well, this is essential stuff, presumably. They're talking about plutonium.
Also, there's a bit where, obviously, when you're backwards, you speak backwards, so when the forwards people can't understand it. And there's this big scene where Kenneth Branagh's, you know, threatening his wife, and Kenneth Branagh's reversed, and John David Washington's like, oh, try to talk him out of it. And I just couldn't understand Kenneth Branagh at all.
It was difficult.
Yeah. That was also a really confusing scene in terms of, like, because obviously the conversation's happening between someone who's inverted and someone who's not.
Yeah.
And yet it's trying to work, it's really weird trying to work out which direction the you know, who's replying to who and what part.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, so it's almost incoherent, that entire conversation. Because it doesn't even make sense logically how one would be able to understand the other if the responses are coming in the wrong order for at least one of them, if not both of them, surely.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just very interesting though, because obviously the protagonist has that conversation with Kenneth Branagh, But then Kenneth Branagh walks into the room, beats him up, and then goes back in time and then has that conversation that we just watched happened. And it just fucks my mind so much. I'm like, how does that work?
I'm really glad they did that because I understood it the second time.
Yes.
Yeah. It does remind me of, in Red Dwarf in Future Echoes, when, like, Lister sees the future of Rimmer having this gibberish conversation with him, and then it happens again, and then it makes sense because now we see he's reacting to Lister, reacting to the conversation. It reminded me of that a lot.
Isn't there also that episode where everything is backwards, isn't it?
Yes. Well, that's why I pithily put on my Letterboxd review, where it's basically the backwards episode with guns.
Yeah. But also, isn't there an episode of Red Dwarf where they have a fight and they don't feel the effects of it until like an hour later or something like that?
I mean, backwards sort of does that. Or it's like they feel, because their injuries get worse and then it happens when they're fine.
Yeah.
Which is what happened in this as well.
Definitely happened in teneT, didn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, so we'll move on. So those are the main problems of it. But I think there is a lot of good here. And like the main thing is, this is, as a cinema spectacle, the film is fantastic.
Yeah.
Very well done.
Like, all the action set pieces were really well done.
It looks amazing.
It does.
Yeah, basically everything was practical. Like, apparently this has, like, the least VFX shots of any Nolan film.
You could tell as well.
Yeah. As Nick, we discussed earlier, like, instead of just filming things and then putting it backwards in editing software, they just did the practical effects backwards.
Yeah,
which
like,
was really weird.
Yeah, like the things where where the bullet reverses from the table up into his hand when he's supposed to be like dropping in reverse. They actually just had it on like a cord and pulled it through, so it like rose up, which is arguably sort of over-engineering the problem. But I mean, it's a really cool thing I like about Nolan is this philosophy of trying to get things in camera, because it does have some really great sort of impact of the effects. Because especially if we talk about things like the plane hitting the building in at the airport.
Yes.
That could happen in, like I say, a Fast and Furious film, and it would just elicit basically no response, because we'd know it's all sort of CGI.
Yeah.
But knowing that they bought a real, like, old, decommissioned 747. They built the building, they crashed into it for real. Like, I've read it up. It is definitely, they did it.
That is amazing.
And it has so much more weight and impact for seeing this thing happen in camera.
Yeah.
And the same with the car chases. Again, they had stunt drivers driving the cars in reverse to get all those shots working.
That was so cool as well. I really enjoyed that scene. The whole scene.
Yeah, I think the entire sequence of the heist of the truck carrying plutonium leading into that then backwards car chase, that was the highlight of the film for me.
Yeah, it was so good. But like we thought it was the climax of the film.
I genuinely I did think that would be the climax.
I think it's a stronger climax than the actual climax. The aforementioned shootout. I think that has much more weight. It's much more interesting and sort of original.
One of my favourite scenes was when they go back to the airport and he has to fight himself in reverse.
That was a really clever reintegration, actually.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
I loved that scene. That was so good. But also what was really good is when you first saw that scene, you thought he was getting absolutely wrecked by this guy, this inverted guy. And then you re-see that scene and you're like, oh mate, he's getting wrecked by his original self.
Yeah.
And it's just because of the time, they're both just struggling so much.
Yeah.
I just thought that scene was amazing. I thought that was really, really clever and like very, very entertaining. And I don't think they made enough use of their gimmick, so the reversing of time in the climax.
Exactly. I think that was probably the best usage of like the whole how the time inversion can work, in terms of the plot. That was the best example of it. And again, like it doesn't do much at the end with it, I don't think.
Especially because those two scenes, they feel like in the film, like they happen so far apart from each other. So like the first scene where it's like going in normal time feels like right at the beginning of the film.
Yeah.
And then when they're going back through it, it feels like right at the end of the film. So it's just like, it's amazing how it's kind of come full circle. You just appreciate it a lot more because of how well thought out the film is.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
There's a lot of callbacks that are really good. I kept looking out, because obviously they've got these inverted bullets. So I kept looking out for bullet holes everywhere, just being like, oh, is someone going to die now?
And like, so because I work at the cinema, I unfortunately saw bits of the film before I saw it for real, so I knew some things. And one thing I saw was the exposition scene where they explain the like, oh, your lungs can't breathe inverted oxygen or whatever, so you need to have the mask. Yeah. So when I watched it, anytime someone was wearing a mask, it was like, oh, is that a person? So
right. Yeah, I see.
Speaking of reintegration, actually, there's a couple missed opportunities I felt with it. So like, you know, they talk about if you encounter yourself in the wrong timeline and you meet, your particles will annihilate.
Yeah.
Like in teneT, if anyone's seen that.
I have not.
I was really disappointed that never happened.
Yeah.
Because that's such a, I mean, like, that's a really interesting point to bring up and, like, have a specific thing. And then just, it never happened at all. That'd be a great little thing for the climax.
Yeah. I think it's a very hard thing to visualise, though, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, teneT managed it, even with really rubbish 90s effects. But
wow.
I just feel like that's like another thing to add to that already very complex film. I just don't think that would really fit in for what they were trying to do. Maybe
not. I just felt, I don't know, one little fight, you know, during the big fight at the end, just some soldier gets pushed into another soldier and just poof.
Yeah.
I just feel like, don't bring it up if you're not going to do it, you know?
Yeah.
Also, they'd say, with a teneT word, they're like, oh, it will open some doors for you, but for some people, you know, you shouldn't say it.
Some good doors and some bad doors.
Yeah.
But as far as I recall, I don't think they ever actually said teneT and got into trouble for it. It was only...
Yeah, it was only ever positive things, wasn't it? Yeah.
Also, that was sort of just dropped after the first act as well.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that'd be a much more pervasive kind of thing. But...
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
So I think... Obviously, I actually did really enjoy it, and I think I do want to see it again because I feel like I'd enjoy it more on a rewatch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My initial thought was, I don't know if you guys thought this, but the editing was so fast and so intense. It's like at this breakneck pace that you never get a chance to absorb anything that's happening.
Yeah, I think it's definitely like, even though it's 2.5 hours, it's so sort of blisteringly fast paced and just sort of charges through.
There's no downtime. Or there is, but it's just very brief. You know?
But the whole thing feels very pressurized, and I think that's probably why I think that helps, well, not helps, but hinders the thing with the dialogue about how he just doesn't go in, because it's all constant all the time.
Yeah.
And on the action scenes, it's fantastic, but it doesn't really, it doesn't have the right contrast at points. Yeah.
Is it more like with the whole like editing thing, with it being very like fast paced and almost like intense, there's no downtime, I feel like that's almost in the perspective of the protagonist. Like, it just keeps going, like it doesn't stop.
Yeah,
it just keeps building and building and building.
The story still does take place over like 5 weeks or 4 or 5 weeks. And it felt like it might, it didn't feel like that. It felt like a day, maybe 2, had passed because it's just non-stop.
Okay, yeah, I know what you mean.
Because even they're supposed to be on this fucking ship for 2 weeks or whatever. Yeah. And even that was supposed to be downtime, and that downtime lasts for like 3 minutes between these 2 huge action scenes,
But then would you rather have it where it's like Interstellar, and Interstellar just feels so long, but that is only set over, well, for the main guy's perspective, Matthew McConaughey, like, it's only a couple of days for him.
Well,
would you rather have it like that, where it feels really slow?
I just think, like some Inception is certainly different, better paced,
Yeah.
But I think is slightly different because it's a heist film-ish.
Yes.
So you get the planning phase, which obviously helps a lot to explain what the fuck is going on. Whereas this, they sort of had that with the army planning bit, but that was more like, this is what we're going to do, and you see what they're going to do, but it's so fucking fast, and then there's 2 of it happening at the same time, because there's the reverse version and the forward version. It's like, there's so much visual information happening right now, my brain can't comprehend this.
Yeah, I think the trade-off is like the blisteringly fast pace works if your story's simple enough. You don't need to spend long thinking about it.
Yeah.
But because tenet's is so convoluted and so complex, it's almost too fast for its own massive plot. I think you have to do sort of like almost one or the other,
Yeah.
or vary itself more.
Yeah. It was good though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's definitely.
Yeah.
I definitely recommend it, and certainly in the cinema while it's still there. Like it
Yeah,
is.
definitely.
As Nolan always delivers. Like,
If your ears can
great.
handle it.
Yeah, loudest film I've seen in the cinema.
Yeah,
by far.
definitely 100%. It's so fucking loud.
Speaking of sound, though, I was very surprised that Nolan didn't use Hans Zimmer.
Oh, so yeah, Hans Zimmer. He had a scheduling conflict with Dune, which is why he couldn't do it.
Oh, I see. I was
But so-
wondering why.
It's Ludwig Göransson doing it,
Yes.
who's done The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And, yeah. Speaking of which, I really love the tenet score. I can't wait to come out on
Yes.
Spotify. But that music was so tense and sort of built so well with the action scenes. And also, there's a lot of like reversed notes going on with that,
Yeah.
and really interesting motifs.
Exactly. I want to reverse the music and see what it sounds like. Like whether they planned the music so that it could also be played backwards when
Yeah.
it's the inverted scenes. Because that would just be so fucking cool if they've done that.
It did
Yeah.
remind me of the Westworld, like, main theme. 'Cause, that's got a lot of inverted, reverse notes in it, if you know what I mean.
Yes. Yeah, I know what you mean.
And I sort of heard that sort of in there somewhere.
Yeah. Like all of the notes were like reversed. So it sounded so cool. And it also helped as well during the climax. So when you got the one group going in just like normal and then the other group is going inverted. And then when you're seeing the inverted group, all the music is like that. It's all like inverted notes and, stuff like that. All the music is back to front.
Yeah.
And it's so cool.
So to bring this sort of to a conclusion, where would you guys rank this relative to other Nolan films?
I think I enjoyed this more than Dunkirk, which is obviously his other most recent one.
You like
Yeah.
this more than Dunkirk?
I think I did.
Well, they're two very different films.
Where do you rate Dunkirk then?
I mean, yeah, Dunkirk's not bad. Dunkirk's very, very good. But I think I enjoyed this more than Dunkirk.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay.
I don't think it's as good as the Batmans.
Any of them? Not even better than Dark Knight Rises?
Maybe it probably is better than Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah.
Poor
yeah.
Dark Knight Rises.
Well, it's not great though. Is
Yeah,
it?
but I don't think it doesn't get a fair nick. Like, it's a good film. It just pales in comparison to the others.
It's all right. I mean, I saw it twice in the space of a week, so I'm sort of. See, tenet for me, I think it's definitely in his upper tier of work, but I still think Dunkirk and Memento and Dark Knight are all better than it, and probably The Prestige as well.
Oh, Prestige is banging, yeah. What about
Yeah.
Inception?
Yeah, what's Inception?
I mean, I'd have to rewatch both, but Tenet excites me more than Inception, but I think
Right.
Inception's probably a better film.
Yeah.
Like, it's a more comprehensible, more coherent film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I never saw Inception in a cinema, though, so, I don't know
No,
how...
me neither, actually.
Like, I'm not sure how Tenet would hold up on a rewatch at home, for example, once it's
Yeah.
lost that sort of, that cinematic power.
I would like to see Inception in the cinema, actually.
Yeah. Well, it is, isn't
Wow,
it?
it's getting its 10th anniversary re-release, so
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Maybe I can
it's
see
the
it.
10-year anniversary.
Yeah.
we'll all go on a trip to see Inception.
Yay.
That came out when we were 12. Is that film
Yeah.
12?
Don't-
Or is it 15?
It is a 12, yeah.
It surprised me.
Yeah.
Yeah, what did surprise me is that this Tenet's like a 12A, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, apparently
Yeah.
it was they had to cut one shot to make it a 12. When Elizabeth Debicki's getting the shit kicked out of her by
Right.
Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah.
They cut one shot, and otherwise it would have been a 15.
Which is weird because,
Oh.
I mean, there's basically no swearing in it.
Well, that's the great thing about Nolan is he makes very sort of tense and sort of like dramatic films, but he never has the swearing or any of the like on-screen violence to make it a 15.
Yeah.
Which is very like Dark Knight is very like gritty and dark and violent, but because it doesn't tick the boxes to make it a 15, it's still a 12. which is
Yeah.
why it gets so complained about so much on the BBFC. Like, it's
Yeah.
their most complained about film, apparently.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, because there's like, oh, it's a 12 and my son likes Batman. And it's like, why has a guy got a pencil in his eye?
Like, why is a guy being hanged outside of an office
Yeah.
building?
Well, exactly.
But all of his films, like looking at them, I would have just assumed that they were 15s, but I guess they're not.
Yeah. Well, it's the power of like tone and thematics, which is
Yeah.
why the BFC has to judge things on thematics as well as just like on-screen stuff,
Right.
basically because of
okay.
Nolan.
Yeah, I was very surprised when it came up as 12A. I was like, are you joking? Really?
Yeah, and there were like some 7-year-old kids in there, and I was like, if I don't understand this, you ain't got a fucking chance.
Exactly. But then also having the whole like inverted bullets going through people. It's just like, oh my god, children.
Yeah, someone
should
gets
not
shot
really
in the
see this.
face.
Yeah.
Children see people getting shot all the time.
People get crushed by buildings,
yeah.
get trapped in walls, blown up by planes.
I can't see kids enjoying that.
No, probably not. Certainly not young ones.
No, they find it boring.
Because even with the intense action scenes, it's sort of like too confused. It's not simple enough.
No.
Hmm.
They find it boring because they just wouldn't be able to understand it. I mean, I would assume that there are probably some like 12-year-olds that be able to like understand it and follow it. But I feel like most just won't care.
I think as a 12-year-old seeing it, it'll probably be like, oh my god, look at all this cool shit going on, but like have no concept of it.
Okay, well that's enough of that.
Yeah, that's probably quite a long review. Yeah. So, other reviews. Let's talk about Radioactive.
Yeah, so Radioactive was set to be released in like February or March.
Yeah.
Something like that.
It was released in the cinema in America, I believe, in December.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, because this is technically a 2019 film, I think.
Yeah, I know it did its festival circuit, and I think it just missed its mainstream release because of a lockdown.
Yeah. So it's a Marie Curie biopic, and it's pretty boring.
Yeah.
So it's based on the synopsis and stuff. It's supposed to focus on her relationship with Pierre Curie and also their discovery of radium.
Yes.
However, it doesn't really do that.
See, right, I've got a theory about this, right?
Oh, okay.
So you've seen The Imitation Game, right?
Yes.
So I think you can compare, these two are similar. They're about a singular, very, very, very intelligent person doing something very, very, very important, that isn't understood by other people around them, right?
Yes.
If you're right. So what I mean is... So
I get what you mean, but I mean, they're very different films.
Yeah. I'm not just saying it like in that, but I feel like in The Imitation Game, they do a lot better of making the layman understand what he's doing. Whereas in this, they give a very half-assed attempt to explain the very, hard chemistry that she's doing.
Are you talking about the grape?
Yeah, I mean, they do that, half-assed attempts with the grape, and they've got these occasional graphics of some atoms doing some random bullshit. But
that we're expected to understand.
Yeah, but I feel like the writers themselves didn't understand what the fuck she was doing, and then attempted to explain something they didn't understand to layman's.
Yeah.
Well, so I think this leads to my general overall problem with the film is it has no idea what it wants to be, because it doesn't, it's so unfocused. It doesn't focus enough on the science of the discovery, like you said. There's not enough effort put into explaining what's going on scientifically. It's oh, okay, well, it focus on Marie and Pierre and their relationship. Well, not really. He dies really early, and their relationship is weirdly breathless and rushed. And,
it really is, isn't it?
Yeah, and all their scenes together, there's this really weird sort of like they're rushing through their lines. There's no emotion to them. They're sort of just trying to shout lines at each other as quickly as possible. It was really weird to watch.
It just felt like just two actors on screen. There wasn't really any chemistry there.
Ironically.
Hey.
The thing is, I really liked Pierre as a character. He was okay. But then she
She felt like a female Sheldon in a way.
Yeah, she had this air of, oh, I'm smarter than you, and I know it, you know?
Yeah, she was very unlikable.
Yeah. But whereas that works for a character like, you know, like Tony Stark.
Well, Tony Stark has the charisma.
Because he's got the wit and the charm and the charisma, yeah. Whereas she is just, oh, I'm smarter than you, then I know it, but I have no redeeming qualities.
Yeah, it was weird because she, like, certainly at the start of the film where is like, she's going around, like, demanding her lab. And then, like, and then Pierre's like, oh, you can come work in my lab, that's fine. And then she starts demanding it be how she wants. It's like choosing beggars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, do you deserve this lab? You're being very dicky about it.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know if you felt this, but the film felt both, and I don't know how it managed to achieve this, but it felt super duper long, but also super duper rushed.
Yeah, it's just, I think that's just the lack of focus as well. Because also, like, you think it would be from Marie Curie's perspective consistently.
Yeah.
But, like, we kept having these cutaways to, like, the future where we're seeing the uses of radiation in, like, medicine and warfare and all that. But with no relation to Marie Curie. Like, she's not there. They're just random cutaways to the future. And it just, it disjoints the whole narrative. You know, it's audience positioning again. You've got to stick with a character and see things through their eyes. Like, they don't know what their invention's going to do. Like, and it won't affect their character. It's irrelevant to the story, really. Save it for the epilogue if you must do it.
Bringing it back to the Imitation Game, you know, they've got these cutaway scenes in that where this policeman's sort of investigating Alan Turing for being, you know, for being gay and having this, and then he just sort of discovers that he's this secret war hero, you know, and you've got that angle, but that's, you know, seeing it from the future and seeing Alan Turing's impact on computing in a way that is inclusive and makes sense and keeps you in the loop.
And was that was a framing device?
Yeah.
If I recall, wasn't it? Yeah, well, this is just like random cutaways. And it just makes no sense in the narrative. Well, at least that was like a consistent kind of container.
Well, I feel like Radioactive just doesn't know what type of film it wants to be. Because it just switches a lot to lots of different things. Like, first it's kind of like, it's like a biopic. And then it just, you got this weird, like, animations going on. And then there's, like, this almost weird dream sequence that's happening. And it's all just completely different tonal shifts all the time.
And it turns into a war film randomly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, it just kind of loses me. It feels like 3 different films in one. And they're all trying to shine through, but it just comes out a bit crap.
Yeah.
And there's no space for either of them. Yeah, it feels like a film designed by committee. Like, so many people putting like, oh, we're going to do it about this, or what we want to do about this. And then they sort of tried to compromise with everyone and please no one.
Also, it you know, it goes out of its way to tell you that, oh, she is very important, but it doesn't really, you know, say why. It's like, oh, she discovered this. It's like, okay, what's it used for? Oh, here's this random cutaway to 50 years in the future that's something that's not actually got anything to do with her specific research, but here it is.
Yeah.
It's just, why does this exist? I don't know. It's really boring and kind of trash, and I would not recommend it.
Nah, straight down the middle for me. Like, I don't bear it ill will, but I just think it's such a creative decision mess. Like, you know, it's just not worth sifting through the bomb sites of a film that it is.
Yeah, it's just, not worth it, really. It's not the worst thing.
No.
Also, I thought it was Justin Timberlake for ages, the main Pierre. I thought that was Justin Timberlake, and it's really super duper not Justin Timberlake.
Yeah, what? I don't know where you got that from.
I don't really know.
You don't even know who Justin Timberlake is, Andrew.
I know who Justin Timberlake is. It's Justin Trouser Snake, innit?
Ramen noodle hat.
Yeah, him. Well, that's sufficiently slated.
Yeah.
So big oof for Radioactive.
Should we move on to Field of Screams then?
Sure.
Yeah.
So Andy still hasn't seen Wreck.
Nope.
No.
But he has seen, through my badgering, the Babadook.
Yeah.
Babadook. Duck.
I thought it was okay, which apparently makes me a heathen.
Well,
Yep.
it's a great film.
I mean, it's all right.
Well, okay, so for those who haven't seen the Babadook, it's an independent Australian horror film. Athena Kent is this mother who's lost her husband in a car crash, but she's got the son who is an absolute terror, and she's sort of being driven mad and sort of, losing sleep over this. So this mysterious book materializes called the Babadook, which is sort of all very scary charcoal drawings about a monster that will stalk her. So she gets rid of it, but the book comes back, and then she starts to become haunted by this shadowy figure, and she has to sort of face this monster and deal with her internal struggles. So why don't you
Her
enlighten
sister's
us?
a twat.
Huh? The kid?
Her sister is a
yeah.
twat.
Yeah. Well, they're all twats.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
Thing is, I don't like that it relied on these characters just being complete knobs. I mean, the main woman's fine, and I like that it isn't, oh, she's really fucking stupid and that's the only reason it works. Like, both her and the main boy are very good characters. Her sister's a dickhead. She literally goes into the police and is like, I'm getting stalked. And he's like, and they sent me this book that says it's going to kill me. And the policeman's like, have you got the book? She's like, no. And the policeman's like, well, fuck off then. And that's just not what would happen. The police would still take a report and offer her some sort of solution and or protection.
Maybe not in Australia.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah, who knows?
The police in Australia don't care about stalkers and death threats.
Not in
Because
Australia.
if you haven't got the book that proves it, you can get fucked.
Well, the book returns anyway, so she's going to be like, look, I've got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's just like, oh, sorry, I'll just leave then. And I just feel like in real life, the police would be like, no, you just file the report and we'll sort something out.
Report goes in the bin.
I don't know why, but that bit specifically really pissed me off.
I was going to say, if your negative view on the Babadook is based on that alone, then I mean...
No. Well, yeah, I mean, that's the main negative. It's just that the other characters were really annoying, but...
Well, I don't consider that negative, because I think that's... Considering the whole thing's really about sort of her dwindling mental health and how sort of isolated she feels, I think that's a big part of it, is the fact she's just surrounded by, unhelpful or actively antagonistic people in her life.
Yeah, exactly.
I found the boy very, very irritating.
You're
That's
supposed
also
to.
the point.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying we did a very, very good job because
They've done their
the
research.
worst.
He's supposed to get under your skin, though. You're supposed to, almost, hate him, like how she is feeling as well. That's, there's a whole point. You're not supposed to really like the kid.
Imagine when you first watched Midsummer and you were like, oh, I don't like it because it disturbed me.
Well, yeah, but whereas with Midsummer, I was like, okay, I get it. Whereas this, it's just like the kid's annoying, still annoying.
Yeah, but it's more... It's deeper than that.
Yeah, I know it's deeper than that. That doesn't stop it being really fucking annoying.
Yeah, I've written about this analytically for uni, so maybe I'm biased. I mean, it's not... So, I wouldn't say it's a scary film, although it is a horror.
No.
But I just think in terms of, as a modern horror film, it's so, beautifully constructed. There's basically no jump scares. There's no, bullshitty kind of horror vibes like you get in, say, The Nun or Annabelle. Yes, there's a creature, but the creature's not, arguably not there. It's basically a manifestation of her inner demons and problems and psychological problems. There's no actual creature stalking her. It's all internal. It's all character-driven horror. And I just think it's so well constructed and, rich with symbolism and sort of, all these great sort of psychological ideas instead of just going, boo, ah.
Yeah. I didn't like the end.
Yeah, I will agree the ending is...
The resolution of basically just shouting it and telling it to fuck off.
And then, chaining it in the basement.
Yeah. I was just like, this is a bit of a cop-out.
That's an ending that works on an analytical standpoint, in terms of its meaning, but not as a plot thing. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Also, it was quite obvious that either they just didn't have a CGI budget at all, or they definitely ran out of it by the end.
Wait, which bit are you talking about?
With the POV.
You know when it's just like it's supposed to be the big spooky thing, and it's obviously just someone stood there flapping 2 black bed sheets around.
I think that adds to the effect.
Most of the time, you just never see him. It's literally just the hat and a coat that you just see in random places.
I also love there's several moments like this, but there's a moment where like she's in the kitchen cleaning up, and just through the window you see like the outline, and it just lingers and just lets you discover it in your own time. And you know, there's no sort of like on the soundtrack or anything. It just leaves it there.
No, but that is like kind of more like the bigger jump scare in the film. But it's not like the Hollywood jump scare where it's literally screaming at you like, oh, there's something scary on screen. You see it and you're terrified, but there's no music really to go along with it to you kind of stimulate that response.
Yeah, because like the Hollywood jump scare, the reason it's so like annoying and fake is there's nothing necessarily scary there, because the music's just so loud and sudden, it triggers like, you know, the fight or flight response artificially. Yeah. There's no emotional response. This doesn't have that. It makes you scared because it is actually like kind of scary. You know, it organically frightens you. There's no reliance on just sort of like jolting you awake.
Something that it does similar to Midsummer is that it tells you the plot basically at the beginning through the book. Kind of like with Midsummer where it's written on the tapestries. Yeah. You have to kind of pay attention to the meaning behind it, where it's just like you're gonna kill the dog, you're gonna kill the son, you're gonna kill yourself type thing. And then it's like you have to make like, almost like friends with it, and then it will stay with you, like as a pet. Like it even says that in the book.
Yeah.
Like right at the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, it's like all the clues are there.
I forgot the dog dies. Oh.
Yeah. It's very sad.
I just got like hit with a wave of sadness.
Yeah.
But that just reminded me, because like another thing I really like is like the cinematography has this very nice. It's all grey, pretty much. Yeah. But like it works in this case because you know it's all about this sort of depression, you know, and mental illness, and so having everything just feel so dark and sort of charcoal grey and sort of devoid of life really works that sort of feeling of entrapment and sort of depression. And also, like, all the stuff to the Babadook, like, especially with the book, there's this very sort of, like, this sort of charcoaly kind of black feel to it. I don't know.
All this similar colour palette and shades and...
Yeah, it feels very sort of like... I don't know, there's just a sort of very consistent texture to the sort of the design of the visual horror. That I don't
almost
know.
As if it's like in the book.
You know, it feels like, you know, the book come to life, like a manifestation. There's very nice sort of consistent visual kind of language to it. I just find really satisfying.
Because even like the TV, when I'm watching TV, it's all in black and white. Yeah. And it's all like old cartoons and shows.
Yeah, I was wondering that. Like, what channel shows fucking 1900 or 1890s fucking films?
Turner Classic Movies.
What channels she managed to tune into, and where can I watch it?
It's only in Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously.
We don't have any modern TV programs there.
Maybe it's like in Gravity Falls, the boring old lady old time movie channel.
Yeah. Is all these things that I had issues with about the film, you're just going to explain away? It's like, oh, it's in Australia. That makes it okay. It's normal in Australia.
So, I mean, did you like the film? Is your overall opinion like positive or negative or?
Positive, I think.
So you do like it?
It didn't blow me away. I think you overhyped it, which you do with most of these films.
Well, it's because I want you to get into horror. There's so many great horror films that you just haven't seen.
Yeah. I would probably watch it again. I did like there wasn't a reliance on jump scares. Or in fact any jump scares.
Yeah. I mean, that's the main reason I got you to watch it, because I think that's an example of like good modern horror, you know, in terms of like analytically and using the genre in an interesting and, you know, in a good way without being like, you know, just audience baiting.
What did you think, Georgia?
I really liked it. I've seen it twice now. The first time I watched it was when I was in college a couple of years ago in the little cafe. like on my phone.
As Nolan intended.
Yeah, so it's very different watching it in the bedroom at night with all the lights off. You know, it's a different experience. And both times I absolutely enjoyed it because of the whole, I don't know, like the whole metaphor of the film of it being her depression and her going through it. And it's her trying to battle that depression, which is the Babadook. And I really, really enjoy it. I think it's a very good horror film.
Yeah.
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 It's just you, Andrew.
It's no Midsummer, though, is it?
Well, they're very, very different.
Yeah, I mean, that's apples and oranges. That's the great thing about horror is there's so many different ways to do it.
Apples and pears.
Okay, so next time on Field of Streams, are you going to do rec or are we going to do something else?
I don't know.
Or are you too scared, Andrew?
Yeah.
Yes.
What are you, some kind of pussy?
Yeah.
Yes. The thing is, I just go into every single horror film expecting to hate it.
Well, that's why I'm trying to break that by
Why?
showing you some of my favourite horror films.
I mean, horror is okay.
Horror is something not to be feared. It's horror is one of my favourite genres, really. Like, because the things you can achieve with it, it's this great sort of, it's a great big blank wall to do whatever you want on. There's so many ways to approach it, so many things you can do with it.
Yeah. I really enjoy horror.
I want you guys to watch Rec so I can get my DVD back,
Yeah.
basically.
We've got so many of your DVDs, we need to return them.
I've given most of them back.
Okay, well, so next time, you're going to watch Rec.
Okay.
Yay! I'm excited.
I'm excited.
Andrew did not watch Ring.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that will do it for this week's episode of Ciné Rambles. You have been listening to Nick.
And Andrew.
And Georgia!
You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/CinéRamblesOfficial.
And Twitter at Ciné Rambles.
And you can leave us a review via email at cinerambles@gmail.com.
And for more content, you can read the original blog over at cinerambles.blogspot.com. So, or
Go on
Or-
Nick's letterbox.
yeah, I do have a letterboxed if you want to read other things.
That's a
small
stupid
reviews.
name.
Well, it's because, you letterboxed films. So,
Letterbox. Duh.
Duh.
well, because it's a verb. The film's been letterboxed.
But it's not letterbox ED, it's letterbox.
Well, it's
duh.
stylized. I mean, Facebook's a terrible name when you get down to it, isn't it?
Andrew
Well, I
hates
suppose.
style.
So, has anyone got any final remarks?
teneT.
Georgia?
It will hurt your mind and your soul.
Okay.
Done. Nah.
Wait, what's teneT but backwards?
Oh, Christ.
That's a lovely teneT you have.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.